I'm gonna call the meeting to order.
Now we gotta file the grants and all
And we are recording at
That's
this
really
time.
good, right?
So, yeah, we're waiting on Craig to join us. We'll start just then with council. Any questions on either of the agendas for this time? Council meeting. Quick look through there. In there that you guys have any questions on?
A lot of new stuff. Pretty much budget public hearing, adopting the budget, and then second reading on an ordinance.
I did add the agreement between Dubuque County and us for the Piazza Street,
That's right.
mill and overlay. I just did that yesterday. And I think that we might have already posted the agenda before that was added. So that's the only thing that has been added.
8.
To the 8th.
And there's nothing on the 22nd. Yeah.
We'll go ahead and back up to permit fees here, and we've got Craig and Matt from ECIA to answer any questions about our permit structure, how it was formulated.
I can give just a little bit of a brief background. When we looked at these originally, we compared to other communities. As you guys know, we do the building inspections in Asbury. So that's where we pulled some of it from. You looked at Dubuque, like I said, other surrounding communities, Wisconsin. You know, and you guys look at like your building permit, just an example, a $10 million building in Piasta's got a permit fee of about, was it 26, 28,000?
28,000.
And I think Dubuque would be about 41. So I mean, again, you're comparing to other communities within your region. On those fees, like I said, you're probably a little less. You'd be comparable, you know. I guess that's the big thing when you start looking at these dollar amounts, and they're big projects, and so there is a permit fee that's going to be associated with it from the inspection side. That's what we brought back to the council back when they initially looked at it and approved it. Again, those are the numbers like
Yeah.
we looked and found.
Yeah, I know you and I talked a little bit about that. I just wanted to kind of bring it back up, kind of a refresher for everybody, so.
So when we looked at those fees, did we look at other smaller communities like us, or we just basically compare Asbury to Dubuque? I don't remember when we did this.
Asbury is gonna probably be the closest to you guys. I mean, you get into, I'd have to look at Manchester maybe to look to see what they would have. But like I said, we looked into Wisconsin too. But again, we figured you're drawing from the same kind of contractor pool. It's similar to when we set up the residential side. You know, you're still kind of drawing that same contractor pool from Dubuque, Asbury. You know, they kind of all work in the same area, so.
General fee wise, what would you think your inspection cost would be on like a warehouse? A $10 million warehouse building?
Again, kind of as we run through that, you know, there's variables in it, but just roughly maybe 200 hours. Again, depends on the contractor, the size, you know, there are variables in it.
You say 200 hours?
You know, and then is it, like you said, completely open, or is there offices in it? You know, what's all in that? Cause that can get from our plan review to the inspections, you know.
Does Dubuque break them down more than we do, or different types of buildings, like where a warehouse would be something and a full scale manufacturing building would be different?
It's based usually off cost valuation.
Cost evaluation.
Asbury as a comparable, they don't have anywhere near the industrial kinds of buildings and space that we do. I mean, how do we compare to like Dyersville in terms of how they've set theirs up? Because that's one we've heard.
And Dyersville doesn't have an inspection
Right, so
process, so
it's
you're
not
not comparable. You know-
That was why you didn't talk about that, but we talked about that, Craig.
Asbury, we get into nursing homes, assisted living.
We could end up.
They're- Yeah, they're a little more complex too from ours and what we're looking. Cascade's got the hybrid version, so
Yeah,
What's the hybrid version?
they're only having us do kind of, I'll say setbacks, on residential. We're just in there in residential right now. We're doing setback inspections and on, I guess, commercial too, but then, final inspection. So we're not doing the whole gamut of inspections that we do for you guys.
In your opinion, are there any alternatives we should be considering to the way we've structured it? With you, are there any other options?
Well, I mean, because it's 12 cents a square. I mean, unless
You
you
guys
go
are
to the
going,
value.
you're doing square foot cost. If you were to do something similar to Butte, I mentioned earlier, the fee would result, would be more. I mean, that's just, I don't, if you're talking a $10 million building anyway. But you've got to structure that, and you've got to look at how the bids come in.
Right.
okay.
Have you ever, I think some of us talked about this, what about like a flat fee? And then maybe like time and material? You ever seen anything like that? Structure?
We haven't, but it did be up to the city.
Right, I'm just curious if you've ever seen it or anything like that.
Like I said, most towns go valuation and
That's what it is.
Feel like we're still lowering the. Forward. We want to have an inspection program. Yeah, which is we did, so.
I appreciate you guys coming. If we come up with something else, because we generally go, oh, no, yeah, shoot, they're gone. So, but we'll get a hold of you.
so John's knocking on my door in a couple of hours.
Yeah, wheels turn.
All right, really appreciate it. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Department head discussion. Pretty casual. Man, you guys want to come to the podium and feel like it's. We can just do it from there.
I don't have anything to pass on you. I've had a busy day. I didn't get a chance to even look at anything. I don't think I have anything to pass on to you guys right now.
Could you come to the podium and say
Oh,
that?
I sure can.
Stacy, how about you?
I might take Homer's time
Very good. Thank you.
and mine. I'll try to be brief. But firstly, I want to just promote our magic show that we are having on Friday. I think I touched on it the last council meeting. But we are sure having it on Friday at 6:30. So if anyone's free, come on over to the banquet room. Doors open probably 5:36-ish for the show to start at 6:30. That's my promotion. Update on the track. The walls are painted as much as we're painting them. Flooring will be installed the 5th of May. So there are some paint stains that we might have left done, but we just have to struggle for a month through, and then the new flooring will be installed. We do have all the signs up stating that it will be closed. All the people also asked many questions, so they're very well aware of it. So we should be good for that. Any questions on that stuff? Okay, I have a couple quotes up there that I've touched base. I don't know if I've talked about the LED lighting before, but this one's from Jermaine. I got a couple quotes, but this was by far the best. We wanted to try to keep updating our LED lights. Alliant is doing more refunds now than they have in the past. We got, when we did our last one, when we did the remodel phase for this upstairs, they cut us a check, I think, for $1,800 more back afterwards from the grant process that Alliant's doing right now. So kind of want to take advantage of that and kind of knock out some more places. Those are the 4 places we're looking at. Kind of doing a combination of bulb replacement and fixture / bulb replacement. Totaling, I think it's up there 14.8. So yeah, so I would like to obviously get the approval on Tuesday if possible, to move forward with that. The funding source, would be from that bond, still from the remodel. We've put a lot of projects within that. We're trying to knock that out. All the projects have been done. Just some of them came in under budget, so we still have some funds remaining, so coming out of that. So the money is there. And then I just got the return on investment. It'd be obviously a hodgepodge of both of those since it's a combination of both, but just wanted to give you an idea of how long the payback period would be or how much it would take before we would savings, I guess. On that.
Do you foresee needing to replace the fixtures in the two areas that we aren't, and at what time frame from?
No, so the reason I picked those is that I didn't feel like it would brighten up both spaces, but I didn't feel like it was worth the extra money for those spaces to completely replace the fixture. So I mean, I wouldn't say that I have a date in mind. The LED is very much what I'm going for to stop making public works change ballasts for me and stop having us having to change the lights.
Do they complain a lot?
No, they don't, but I think I ask.
Any questions on Stacy's? Okay.
Perfect, the next, one is. Told you I had a couple.
Oh.
Wait, did you have a question?
No.
A while back, I came to you guys, I think it was another work session, and talked about one of the batting cages down in between the fields. That has been in rough shape the last couple of years. Wanted to do what we had did in between the north and south field on the one batting cage, on this batting cage as well. Which would be, lay concrete, put turf on it, have the net, so that we don't have to worry about weeds and we don't have to, the aesthetic is pleasing versus what it's been. Got the quotes from 3 individuals. East Iowa came in low, so that would be my recommendation, to move forward with, to get an idea, what this total project would cost. It's around 4,000 more on top of this to do the turf. And then we'd have everything we need. As far as money, we do have this within capital. We budgeted more for capital because we thought the sprinkler system on Spiegel was gonna cost more. We did get that fixed, for under what we had estimated, so the money is in capital to be a project without asking for anything in addition.
Stacy, who's the second bid from?
I think he's pretty much just kind of a subcontractor.
Scroll down on.
This is the one that
That's the one.
she's asking.
He's a resident here in town.
Who is it, Dean?
He's a resident here in town. He lives over on Brand.
Okay.
I just seen him pouring some concrete over in Thunder Valley the other day. I stopped and asked him if he'd be interested in give us a quote.
So am I reading this right? So the gentleman that's in Piasta is $50 more?
I think it's $100 more.
$100
I
more?
can't see the quotes
It's
here, but
It's 6,800 versus
It's-
6,750, so.
okay.
It's-
Is this guy, is he a business or is he?
No. Self-employed.
Is this all he does is concrete?
He works for, I don't know what the company name was, there was no names on the trucks, but I've seen him in town doing quite a bit of flat work for, and especially in the area over there, I think they do a lot of work, flat work for Perfection.
It's not a resident Piasta is for him versus someone outside the community.
The problem with that is not,
Okay.
not an actual business.
Okay.
I mean, I think the recommendation is to go.
Okay, I
with
just-
it would be
Asking the
our
question.
recommendation.
Doesn't hurt to stop that.
And Stacy, the East Iowa quote is it's not to exceed, or it's like, that's the estimate, it's time and materials.
Yeah, I got birds and he got the other two, do you know?
Final price was based off of the actual footage. Footage was good.
Dollars per square foot.
Not to exceed. I was actually the contractor that did all the site. Stuff from, for instance.
Is that bid? Lump sum. Okay. It's good.
All right. Stacy?
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's the
part I'm getting. We can skip it.
Dean?
I guess I'll start off just by adding to Stacy's list a little bit, with just an update, I guess, on the playground equipment over at Kelly Oak Park. I believe we are scheduled for the week after Easter, weather permitting, and if not, that the following week for the porta place. Along with that, there was a recommendation at last month's meeting, a concern, I should say, about the water that was pulled up over there. We did get a pipe installed to drain that lot over there. So that should take care of that issue. And I'd like to see your request concerns on the
Squiggle
playground.
bar,
Pardon?
the squiggle bar.
Yes, we did. Check that off,
We don't know.
modified that, welded it up, some shims on it. Hopefully got it stabilized a little bit better than what the original was.
Yeah.
We've been checking it. It seems to be holding up pretty good, so.
I wanna know what the actual terminology is for that piece of equipment. I call it the squiggle bar.
I don't know if that's certain, but, yeah, our pump were probably take it off, then we had to create a gate or a rail of some sort to block that off, but,
Perfect.
seems to be holding up, so we'll go with that. I did talk to the contractor for Thunder Valley Phase 4 this afternoon to try to get an update on possibly they were gonna start over there on that. Sounds like possibly the week of the 14th of April is what they're scheduled for animals to start arriving, so I would say within a couple weeks that will be on, it's probably gonna be shut down. And I did ask for him to give us an update before in a timely fashion as far as an exact date for shutting down Liliana. Get closer to that date. We're doing submittals for it, so I'm assuming as soon as manholes come, they will getting after that. Guess that's about all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Dean? All right, we'll move on.
You guys are free to go.
Thank you. No, John, sit down.
Thanks, guys.
All righty. Yes, there's just one thing left on the agenda. This is small. Teeny tiny. Discussion about the zoning code ordinance. And finalizing what we feel is where we want this. Into some sort of conclusion, so we can get everything changed and moved forward.
Just a note to our Board of Adjustment people, the three lovely people over there. You guys are coming in.
Kirby's so shy.
I know, right? You guys are coming in on the back end of this because the changes that we're making, it's really going to be put to your decision making. Herbie and I have talked at great length about this, happy to sit down with either one of you and go through it. But I think for you tonight, it would just be absorbing what we're talking about. So if we move this in this manner, then you're more aware of what's going to be taking place. So no dripping water, no swinging lights. See how excited they are?
Any questions from you guys before we get started?
I don't.
Remember, this is recorded.
Or you're done, but you're looking straight at me.
I was looking at her.
Like to talk.
No. I guess, how do you wanna, what do you wanna do? How do you wanna?
Well, hopefully everybody's had an opportunity. Those, that information was included in here, so hopefully you had a chance to read through it. You hadn't kind of peruse through it right now. I guess at the end of this conversation, if everyone's comfortable, then we can, at Tuesday night's meeting, set a public hearing. Again, since we've made significant changes to this, we need to have another public hearing. My recommendation, hopefully you did see the notes out there on board docs. Doug and I have come up with, instead of mixed use, we want to use a mixed use commercial, which really kind of hones in on having that lower commercial with the residential on top. There are some questions on, do you want it 2 stories? Do you want it 3? What the setbacks look like? So I mean, that's the discussions we need to have tonight. We can start from there, and I'm sure it'll evolve into more of a discussion and other parts.
I was glad to see the mixed use commercial. I think that's something we've talked about a lot, we want. I was gonna suggest, or I was expecting to see it as a permitted use in C1 and C2. Do we want to have discussion on, is there a reason for it to only be a conditional use? I guess I'm open to understanding that. My concern has always just been preserving the commercial property for commercial development, so this addresses that.
So it has the commercial.
Yeah.
It's just, do we need the conditional part because it's got the.
Yeah, unless I'm missing something, I'd argue for it being a permitted use.
I would think that we want that conditional use because feedback I'm getting on the residential side of it is to the point of we don't want anybody.
But we do want commercial.
We do want commercial 100%.
Yeah, so to me, you need bodies to bring the commercial businesses in. You need both. To me, it's a.
We need both.
Yeah.
Study will say that we need both, but we want both.
Yep.
There's a difference between a need and a want.
I think there's a need for the control of it to not let it get out.
That's probably the best way to
control the apartment.
I hear the same feedback on apartments. I think we're addressing that in the R3 condition. But I'm not practically how many builds like that would we have, maybe 1 or 2 in that area. I guess it depends on what develops to the east, but.
It's gonna take some time, obviously. Piasta Square has filled out their commercial.
Right. That rebounds over time.
You know, and we
The second.
In cycles.
And we can always address it in the development agreement too, to say if you want to build 4 of these, then have it be a progressive. You build one, it has to be 85%.
Occupied,
Correct, yeah.
commercial and everything, and then. Yep.
So I mean, that is a level of control. But I too, and this is just my recommendation, I like it being a conditional use.
I think the consistency as well from all of apartments then all fall under conditional use. It's not just, I mean, I
see.
get Brian's
That's
point.
the main argument.
Here's the incentive for you to put this building up that's got commercial and apartments is it doesn't have to be a conditional use. But I think because it does have the apartments, I think from our standpoint, the consistency needs to be. We're gonna require conditional use for apartments.
It's because
It's gotta be because it's apartment.
makes sense.
So that's my
That's
feeling.
your argument for it.
Yeah,
And I would hope that the developer, obviously, if he wants to build this, he wants to fill that commercial lower level. So that's more of an incentive for him to make sure that he does exactly that.
and when somebody would come to the Board of Adjustments for the conditional use, this is where you guys can. The conditional use, they would be trying to make their case for why they would want to do that building. With we want to have a commercial and some apartments. And at that point, that the determination can be made. How are we doing on apartments? Are they full? Are they full now? Yet open a week later or a month later or whatever. And then there's more of we can make a more educated decision at that point. So, but that's why conditional use is kind of, again, that control. But if they make a legitimate argument and they're going, well, I've got 3 businesses that want to come into a building if I put it up. And I've got 8 people ready to rent 12 out of 12 apartments. Perhaps that makes a good enough case that you're like, yeah, that works for us. But if it doesn't, if they're just coming like, well, no, I haven't had anything on that property for a long time. And I just thought you'd like it if I put that kind of building up, that doesn't quite fly. So, yeah, we're still in control. So it isn't, it's just not that we're not gonna get a developer come in and wanna do, hey, I'm gonna put this building up. Let's do a development agreement. I want some TIF. That's it. So that's my take on that particular topic. Wes?
Yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of, so with its only being in conditional use, so it wouldn't have its own zoning M-1, correct? I'm just thinking like the future zoning of Piasta map. Like, I think as Brian alluded to, like a lot of commercial stuff sits empty now, and if we want to entice a developer to come here and build a bunch of apartments, we're gonna say, hey, we need some commercial, then you can put your apartments on top. It'll at least break even with residential on top. So I feel like Piasta has a little bit of prime real estate left.
Yeah.
If it does grow south of Highway 20, and to me, I would want to see buildings like we have here, West Schultz buildings that have it. First, if we just put commercial, nobody might bite at it because it's only commercial and they see so many vacancies here. So I'm
We
looking at
did
it.
address that in the mixed use commercial definition. So I mean, that kind of encapsulates that,
So on like the future zoning map, it would say.
wherever that mixed
C1,
use,
C2.
right, that would fall underneath that. So if the development does go south, which is honestly highly unlikely with the industrial growth that we're having, then we could actually say, we could take it from an A1 to a C1 or C2, and that would fall into that category as a mixed use commercial.
You're looking
But
at it like
conditional.
as a development map, right? So
A separate zoning is
Yeah.
what I think you're looking at,
Right.
right?
He's looking at it color coded and saying, you don't have that as an option.
If it's
It's-
C1 or C2, it's an
gonna
option,
show
a
C1.
conditional option.
Yep, it's just gonna show C1 and then the
I
color.
get that, I guess, but.
John? Oh, you just.
He's doing the thing where he backs up. I thought he was gonna say something too.
Yeah, he had that look. Right, any other?
I guess I'm just not completely convinced that it shouldn't be a permitted use. My logic is, we want to incent the developers to bring commercial here. I mean, I hear from the developers, they can't sell because they can't get commercial to come, it's a chicken with wives. I'm sensitive to the capacity, the apartment capacity, and the problem with it is gonna be, the apartments will always fill. It's gonna be an insatiable demand curve because of our proximity to Dubuque. And we know we don't necessarily want to only be a bedroom community to Dubuque. So we have to have the businesses come in. I'd like to have it be easier for them, so they're incented to, this is the kind of development we want. And that they can win-win because they can build their commercial because there are bodies. We can control the areas that it's zoned, C1 or 2. But I don't feel.
I get the drawing of the commercial. I just think the temperament of the amount of apartments from the citizens, we're there. I think we're at our max capacity as far as the residents of Piasta.
Agree with that.
And so
I understand.
how do we gel that? I don't know.
I also hear people want some more things.
Yeah.
I get it.
More places to eat, and some stuff to do. And
They all look at
And some of
that,
the-
right? I mean, I get that.
restaurants, hotels.
But- So are we,
And I don't want
Chicken
to
and the egg,
lose those
right?
commercial businesses to other places because they don't see the density of lives here to do what we need done.
And I think we're well on our way with having those 2 projects coming over on the land to the east on Thunder Hills Road. I think that is the impetus that will get the rest of that to develop out.
Hopefully.
I really
And
do.
the interchange.
Which, and again, the concern also would be if we allow that without a permitted use or without a conditional use, then they could potentially fill all
All
those
of it.
commercial
Sure.
properties that we would like to have available for when somebody doesn't want to be commercial with apartments above.
Real estate.
And keep in mind, commercial could be insurance agents,
Oh, yeah.
it could be,
All kinds of things.
right, so it's, then you're not in control of what goes in there, because we need so many other things. Because of the leakage, where, people are leaving to go to Dubuque, people are leaving to go to Dyersville.
They
So
want
there
safe.
again, we have that control to say, this is what I want to put in there, as you're talking to the developer. And I think that just puts us in a better position.
Mayor, you're looking at it because it is apartments above. So you're
Right.
kind of looking at keeping them consistent.
Well, it's the consistency, but then also to your point, bring or make it attractive for commercial.
Yeah,
Not every commercial is gonna be attracted to a mixed use building.
true.
So if we allow it without conditional use, we're telling a developer they could put up as many of those buildings as they want in that zone. And they could be all taken up and there isn't room for a restaurant that wants to come in and be a standalone. I guess that's my other concern is to save, I know you are big on saving property.
I am,
And,
Yeah, for that.
so saving that for a standalone property that might
that wants it.
and then we don't have
It's a
it.
good point.
And you're running the risk too, that mixed use commercial, you have 2 stories of apartments above it, you have the lower commercial, that commercial doesn't develop out, and then they come back and say, can we build apartments? I mean, that's
Where's
something else to
that?
think
Do you
about.
think that they're gonna struggle? I mean, I see that point, but do you actually think that there's gonna be that many where it fills up all of our commercial? With, with the
Commercial
mixed
mixed
use
use.
development?
I think developers would,
I think it would be enticing, which we want, but I don't think it would be enticing to the point of they would fill up all the commercial lots because they're gonna lose money if they're sitting there with 6
It's more of a
commercials.
3-story apartment than a 2-story apartment.
Yeah, they're gonna lose money at some point if we just got a bunch of empty commercial space in all these buildings. I don't necessarily, and I get what Wes is, I think. Planning and zoning is talked about is trying to just make it more enticing to get more of these. To make it where you have those, because obviously there's an appetite to put up apartment buildings, but also. And so if you have it just as, that would be my only concern is if you just have it as a conditional use. The same as a residential is, it really doesn't put it out there and really dangle the carrot in front of them. That would
but I
be
also
my-
think that if we get in a situation where, okay, nothing, everything's stalled out, right? Everything's stalled, whether it be apartments, commercial use, whatever, and someone comes to us and says, I wanna put one of these buildings up. And we look at it, we haven't had anything move in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Well, then, okay, maybe it's time. But again, then we're in control. It's just now all of a sudden a developer comes in and slaps 80 of these buildings up and now we got two levels of apartments and nothing on the bottom floor for 5 years.
Right.
Or whatever that is.
But I don't think the developer would invest in that if they didn't think, I mean, it was just timing on the Piazza Square one that's there. Because of- Right,
Oh, yeah, but
and that will fill, so.
Well, just the premise of these buildings, just in itself, to Wes's point, you've got the bodies up above. To at least provide that rent, and because of the dynamics, the more bodies you have, the more you have to have some of those smaller service. Type entities, insurance or whatever, because that's
Cafe.
part of the diversity in a community.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't hit it out of the park with a large retail, for instance, downstairs. Until we maybe grow to a certain size, but it gives them the diversity. So we just have to feel comfortable on what's our controllability. And then how much is the carrot dangled out there for them to recognize what their opportunities are. The premise of the mixed use is gonna give us those diverse incomes and
Incentive.
incentives.
I think that's a good compromise, mixed use commercial. Is a good compromise to our developers who want to build apartments.
Yeah.
And to us who want commercial. And I think you wouldn't continue to fill your lots. With residential apartment, commercial on the bottom or top or wherever, if they were sitting empty,
I agree. Same argument.
so I think.
And for residential apartments.
And we know we have developers who wanna build apartments, and it seems like this might be a way to say, we understand what you're saying, but we don't wanna lose all our commercial space. We wanna see
And also.
a
work on
clothing
RDA.
shop or whatever, or another insurance
Attracts-
place or a restaurant, and this is how we can,
It preserves
Keep
the
that moving.
space that Piasta has. If you look at Slavics too, if you would almost combine those two, you would have half the space left for wide open development. Piasta doesn't have that much room to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said in that too, if someone wants to come in and has a plan to do multiple buildings in this dynamic, we could restrict that, the golden handcuff of, you have to finish that, because they're gonna want the revenue.
Including your commercial space, not a residential fill up
They need to
100%
get
like
money on
that,
that.
but commercial,
Commercial.
I mean, you
Yep.
could say, commercial, we want 3/4 of your space.
We can control that layering effect with someone that wants to do multiple units.
I think you could control
With condition.
the apartment side with the levels, you know, because they're gonna have a break even point, like you go 3 stories, they might build them and rent them all out and leave the commercial empty. You go 2 stories, well, then you've got enough money stuck in there that
50%.
they're gonna need that commercial income.
Got 2/3 of the building full. You're at that point.
I don't feel like residents would disagree that, or argue with having mixed use.
No.
I know they don't want more single apartment buildings and they don't look that appealing, but if you said, okay, we're gonna build another apartment building with 12 units and 4 commercial spaces for, you know, whatever. I don't think anyone would say, no, we don't like that. I mean, maybe
I think a
some,
lot of people would
some.
say, no, I don't like that.
I don't think majority, but
Welcome to the office.
If you stack them one on top of one another, that's where it starts to get.
Right,
Yeah.
then it gets.
That's, again, that's why having a conditional use,
Helps
it
us.
may not be a carrot, but it helps us control that.
Titrate it.
And then let's look at it this way, it's one more layer. You know, it's one more layer of protection for us. We take it to the BOA, we let them make the decision. It's not like we have to drag it through the mud for 3 months. We schedule a meeting at the convenience of these 3 folks here and one other person to, you know, make that decision. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have in place.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say we should just turn it wide on those buildings. That's what I feel. And I feel like I would disagree with Lexi. I think we would have a majority of people, if you ask them, hey, we're gonna put up some mixed use, there's gonna be commercial and apartments. They're just gonna hear apartments and they're gonna say no. So,
So Mike, when we're talking about this being more commercial property in a sense, with the residential above, when you look at the building, are you going to look, in my mind, are you gonna look at it and be like, that's an apartment more style, or are you gonna look at it and go like, this is a downtown Main Street, commercial property, and then, oh yeah, it does have.
No, I think you gotta say it has to look
Ideally
like.
would be like what West
West
West's
has gotta look like.
ideally.
That's
It
the,
looks
that's the
more
model.
commercial.
Right.
So it's more like, oh, that's a commercial area and.
Yeah.
which like if you were walking down Thunder Valley and it continued with businesses and apartments or mixed use like that, you would start to get a downtown feel. Like think about how you walk downtown Dubuque and at your eye level is commercial business
Businesses.
and everything above is
But you
apartment.
don't see.
Yeah, and you, I mean, you know it's there, but you don't, yeah.
And I know one other thing we talked about too is the aesthetics, when you have commercial tenants are just gonna make those naturally, those apartment residential places look nicer, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's.
The no-brainer is Highway 20, you don't want it to be all apartment row, but then you start going down through our main streets. Can you mix that up? And then it gives that small town feel in each of those areas.
I think you want it to look like where the intermodal center corridor's at. I mean, you want it to look like that.
Right.
But
Yes.
then that way, when you do present it to the public as well, it's more commercial. It's got the benefit of the apartment, but it's.
Your renderings are always the lower level looking down. the street.
Yeah.
Show the.
Yeah.
and there is another, I mean, you know, parking, if you've got
Yes.
12 units and you've got 3 buildings, you've got 36 units of parking taken up every day.
See, when
And then the commercial comes in and we can't get to it, I gotta park a mile away.
Then those lot sizes are gonna have to be.
It's, you know,
Learning by that.
Oh, I know we can
They
go
have
down
to
the
have
rabbit hole.
50 parking stalls.
Yeah, but
You're always gonna have
hypothetically,
parking for them spots.
The people in the apartments are typically not gonna be there during the day, and most of those commercial are open during the day, so I think it's kind of a give and
Things
take,
will be open into the evening.
Yeah, but-
I mean.
depending what they are, right, restaurants, right?
But if the property dynamic lays out, like over here, you know, they have the ability to have room in the back for residential parking.
Yeah, I don't think you need the multi apartments on a single lot. I think would be
Needs to
another
be-
controlling factor to.
Yeah, it has to have a feel to it where it's very selective on where it is, wherever our. Not just everywhere.
So like that leads me to believe it back to having it as a conditional use, so that it gives us that control. I think we all want it, right? I mean, we all want that type of stuff. But
Don't quote me exactly, but I think our housing studies, the data is, we're roughly at 37% apartment to, 63 other comparable communities of our size that maybe aren't by a big metropolitan area, are more like 30-70. So we're already beyond that. And if it goes unchecked, like at its current growth rate, we're at 50-50 in 20 years, which none of us want.
Right.
And we can't have that without commercial businesses.
Right.
I think you need the more low income, I won't say low income, lower income housing, like starter homes type of stuff in the
Yes.
community than you need apartment buildings.
Or the first time home buyer. type.
Yeah, first time home buyer.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Well-
being addressed with the development, Piasta out here by the funeral home. There's 42 lots that are dedicated for duplexes and
Duplex,
42
more
for single
dense housing.
family. And I think that we're heading in the right direction.
And we are. a lot
And then over
for
here in Thunder
condos,
Valley 4, we're doing the
townhomes that
same
can be
thing.
owned.
Yeah, so I think we're heading in the right direction.
Most young families come in, they can't afford to live in Piasta. I mean,
That's right.
they just can't, so.
And it's
That
always
would be
been that
easy.
way.
Yeah. I mean, just to get a house now, you're at what, 400,000 or 500,000?
The median price for a house right now is 379.1.
Jeez.
So it's nicer to get the younger families in, do the lower, I mean, not lower income, but.
Like the duplexes.
Starter
And it's the only way you're gonna get
Yeah.
that sense of community
Yeah.
in town. I mean, you go to Farley, you go to Epworth, you go to Dyersville, and their youth has grown through the community and are now pitching in to do things, and we just don't have that, you know?
But we also, what's the average age of our community?
30.
Yeah.
So we really
Mid-30s.
are
that's,
low.
Yeah, I mean, that's a.
It's the way
Serve
So
community.
on
I think
that-
what he's getting at is that like in Farley, Epworth, you have generation.
Yeah.
You have generational type people, you have people
People stay.
live here 3 or 4
Yes.
generations.
We have-
I've lived here 18 years.
Yeah, we don't have. Who in this one's been born and raised in Piasta?
Right, exactly.
I think that's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
That we can maybe start creating something.
There's no sense of ownership. Yeah, I mean, 100%. You can look at the community boards and all that stuff, and it's hard to get people to volunteer to do that.
Yes.
Cause they don't have that sense of.
Where the
Exactly, to Shelley's point is that we've got such a younger age. You know, my wife and I walk a lot here, and this is one of the probably per capita
Oh, yeah.
most active communities, and a lot of it has to do with the age, and so all the different commercial type avenues, you know, people are gonna be actively walking around, and if those are sprinkled in different parts of our community, it promotes more activity.
And I think the key is sprinkled.
Yeah, that's the key. That's what we talk about a lot, is strategically placing it to where
Right.
you don't have just such a large quantity of just this certain type.
Yeah.
Saturated in a
It's where
lot.
these guys come into play then.
Exactly.
So
On
sprinkle
the
gently.
same page.
Remember the sprinkle.
It's a great
Sprinkle you feel.
opportunity before.
Because we've always been a bedroom community here in Piasta. I mean, there's no, like you say, generations here, which I think we need because, again, there's no volunteers. Nobody wants to pitch in and help or do anything. So, I mean, to get the lower housing for people to stay and come, I think that'd be good.
Well, we're so unique because we have 1,300 people that work, we have an industrial.
Yeah.
You name another community that's local, that's even close to our population that has that kind of growth. It's just, we're just lacking the commercial right now. And it's just slowly, we'll get there, but I just want to make sure we get there and we do it in a, I hate to use the word controlled way.
Yeah.
But
Intelligent way.
Intelligent
Right.
development, you know?
efficient maybe.
Thought out.
We can make it generational by having the right placement.
Yes.
Cause then, you know, that retiree generation would, they'd be wanting, they'd wanna stay, and then their children are here. You know, you have the different diversity for the generations in the different locations of the community.
When franchises or businesses do studies on the population and do that, determine whether they're gonna bring in a business or not, do they consider the proximity of Dubuque?
They do, they call it leakage. So you attract or you leak.
Okay.
So people come to Dubuque, they come to Dartford. Or people from Cascade come to Steve's Ace Hardware. It just depends on the need. And I think the comprehensive plan really identified what the residents at the time that that plan was done, what they need. And it's just a tremendous amount of commercial.
Depending on what the business per se is, you're like, Dubuque is just an arm's way, it should be pretty moving.
Yeah, but I don't know that they count the rooftops as they say.
Okay.
That's the terminology. How many rooftops? We as a city do not have enough rooftops to bring in X. And that's the pushback that you get.
Well, let's look at the hotel study too. That hotel study, I was very on the fence thinking, I knew we could get one, but when the data came back and it was overwhelmingly supportive of this, then that turned me into a believer. You know, it does take the rooftops to bring the commercial in. They looked at it as there's enough attractions between 20 miles this way and 20 miles west that will support that hotel. And that hotel, I hate to keep going back to it, but that will be the precipice for the remaining development of that 144 acres. And then I think that then we're gonna be sitting back going, did we make the right decision if we didn't put something as a conditional use or if we did? So this is the great part about having growing pains in a community.
But mixed use, like in that area, what we're talking, you know, that's,
Right, I mean, do you want more
It's-
apartments over there?
but, you know, if you have the right commercial sprinkle in there, then that can help promote that growth going that direction. What about the right amount of sprinkles? I'm recording.
Further discussion, mixed use?
Are we keeping it as
I-
conditional use then?
I think at this point.
Where's everybody coming down on it? I'm still mixed.
I'm in condition.
I think I can go with conditional, but I kind of want to know where all my colleagues are.
I think
Where are you?
I'm on the conditional side of things.
Lexi, where are you?
I'm probably the same as you. I don't think it needs to be conditional.
Planning and zoning?
What do you guys think?
Kind of 50-50. I think the fact that we have the language for it as a conditional is at least a good start. It's an option at least.
Yeah, we just see something later on, we can always change it. I think it'd be really hard to change it the other way.
I agree with that.
If you wanted to take it back out of where you get.
For those of you that have done
So
development
condition-
longer, then, oh, go ahead, sorry, Lex.
No, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So conditional use currently, so if someone wanted to do this, they would go straight to them first.
Once this would be finished, yes.
Yeah.
And then-
It's not just first, that's it.
There's not a role for the city council, it would go.
Well, they
board
can
of
deny
adjustment.
They can't appeal it.
And then they get it.
You guys can't appeal it. It's a process. It's not any different than any other process in government, but
It goes
it's-
back to them, and it's there, that's fine.
Always.
Once
No,
it goes back
For
to
conditional,
Board of Adjustment, it's.
council can appeal.
okay. I just feel like that's a really big responsibility
It is.
for volunteer board.
Well, any responsibility.
I mean,
planning and
like,
zoning decision.
we're elected.
They're all walking out of here tonight and
We're
we're never
elected.
gonna see them.
But you know,
So what are your guys' thoughts for you three? I mean, I think we should all be.
Yeah, we've all been discussing this for a couple of months now. So this is all just kind of, you guys are just joining tonight with,
Landed.
what the hell are you guys talking about?
Trying to figure it out.
I would like to hear maybe some feedback from you three if we could.
I like the conditional use because like you guys were saying, you know, apartments are good, people want apartments, but people that live in apartments, they don't care, they're not home, they don't really necessarily make this their community. You know, my feeling is apartments are just, hey, I'm gonna live here for so long until I can find something. But the lower, you know, the affordable housing would be a good thing. But I like the use that, conditional use, that way you can control it.
So just to clarify, conditional use gives the option, whereas mixed use is saying it has to be both commercial and residential.
Well, we're defining it as mixed use.
Building
commercial.
itself.
Right, so that, think of it as one definition.
Right.
Lower commercial, two
Yeah.
Apartment levels.
Okay.
But the conditional use comes into the zoning.
The permitted
Makes
part,
sense. Okay.
that you can, it's allowable, no matter what. Versus a conditional use where you
Control
have
the
to,
project.
yeah, we can't,
We have no-
nobody has a say in it, it's just, you can do it.
We wanna put it as a conditional use for R3 as well, if there's something that's zoned R3 and you guys can make the decision and yeah. We can put it,
That's just apartments.
Just an apartments, I agree. Apartments are conditioned.
And they condition.
In R3.
They already are.
Yeah, apartments are, but
I don't want mixed use. The mixed use, can we have that part as a conditional?
I think that would be a hard sell. I mean, would you wanna look aside a tattoo
It
parlor?
depends where it's at.
Depends
if it's on a fringe.
Yeah.
On a fringe, maybe.
And then I'm not dissing tattoo parlors by any means, but if it's not a very desirable business, let me just put it that way. A new family moves in and they move in on the corner and all of a sudden, you know, you have this mixed use apartments and all of these lower commercial spots being filled by something that a lot of people,
I'd rather keep residential cleaner,
Yeah, the idea behind an R3 is to have a residential area.
A residential.
I'm just thinking like right now for Slavics, where Dark Bird is, where the apartments are. That to me would make sense, when the board would say, you know what, that's a little pocket there that we could do both. That would be
The
my
transition.
example, a transition.
And then under conditional.
I'm not saying in the middle of a huge apartment complex, put one commercial in the middle, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but that's, right now, that's C1, so that request would be conditional language.
They could still come back and
The
ask
last
for a
apartments
rezone.
that
they could come back and ask for a rezone and that.
I mean,
would
it
way
would be a
we-
fringe, so
That's a way we
come
can
back and
It would be a
just
great
on that, I think would be the.
we don't have to put it as just a suggestion.
Does anyone think that having it as a conditional use is a disincentive to developers bringing project ideas forward? Because it's not an automatic permitted one. I don't have as long of experience.
I would say it's a chicken or the egg. I think.
So I can tell you when I inquired to Slavic again, personally about buying one of his lots and doing commercial on the bottom and doing residential on top, he said, no, I won't sell it to you. So like a mixed use would prevent that, so I can tell you that has happened to me. He said, I'm the only one that owns apartments in this strip.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a decision on his part to maintain that he can build more.
Status quo,
apartments.
yeah, which we're trying to change.
Like, that happens, that happened.
That wasn't the zoning causing.
That wasn't a zoning,
Not
but
a
it was
zoning.
mixed, I guess, mixed use, then I could buy it and then just do it. But I told him my plans, that's what he said, so.
Should've just bought it. I just bought a lot. I just want to buy a lot.
Hindsight's 20/20. Learn from your decisions. I know, right?
That's good.
So let's circle back.
Mind if we needed to.
Let's circle back to our Board of Adjustments. Zach, you asked the question, did that get answered for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then your gut check on the conditional use versus non-conditional or
Permitted.
open permit,
No, I think that conditional use is a good direction.
okay, and Herbie?
Yeah.
Conditional, okay. So there's the gut check of the room. you gotta say. Other areas to discuss on that.
well, I think anything at this point is open for discussion. So if anybody wants to touch on other sections, whether it be senior housing,
Those are good. Yeah. We beat on those pretty hard. Is there any discussion on the height? Any questions that we need to do on that?
yeah, on the bulk regulations.
All regs.
Because right now, Doug and I have it in there for the mixed use as a three-story maximum. Lower one, for commercial and then the two, upper ones for apartments.
What do you think?
West is 4.
West, similar to Wes's project is that?
No, West is 4. Well, no, he has,
It's 3.
it is. He has commercial and 2 residential.
Residential areas.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%.
It's a lot bigger.
I don't think-
Would you like to place a wager?
I'm gonna go.
Would you like a little March Madness action?
No
I
idea
don't
what
think we
the
might
answer
think
is.
taller than that.
Right after you.
No, I really did.
Right after you get kicked out of your pool?
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
I swear I saw that thing.
Would it be beneficial to keep it just 1-story commercial and then 1 apartments? That way there's incentive to get commercial in there to pay.
Well, and if we're gonna have the timing where you have to have 2/3 full, well, if they have 2 floors full.
Right.
But you would still have to have so much commercial full to continue on to
2/3
another one.
And that's something that we can talk about. when we get our-
We'd have to
we
break
get-
it out.
I like the idea of the two stories, but if you're gonna move on, it's gotta have 2/3 of the commercial as well, just not.
Two
Two
stories
stories of apartments.
of apartments.
Commercial.
Right,
No, no, you're
both,
saying-
both
you're saying just
sections need to have
2 stories
2/3.
total.
Yeah.
2/3 full on whole.
Cause our feeling all along has been 3 stories total.
Yep.
It's just a good.
I agree.
And then,
Bigger than that, it just, we don't have the landscape for it.
and just because you have the apartment, the residential full, that doesn't mean you have 2/3 full, you gotta.
Right, but if you had just one floor commercial, one row of apartments,
I don't think
You know,
that's.
I don't think you'd ever break even.
Yeah.
I mean, that would.
You might never get a project.
but that way you're looking, you know, he's maybe not making his money back on the apartments, there's more incentive to get somebody into the.
I don't think we'd
commercial.
ever.
I don't think you'd
I don't
make your money back on the project
Project.
itself.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't wanna restrict that, I think is the answer to that, Ben, is, yeah.
So somebody could if they wanted to,
They could if they wanted to.
They could if
but they don't have
I
to.
don't think.
But they would come to them and ask for the conditional use based
That
on,
makes sense.
this is my plan. I don't wanna go 3 stories, I wanna go 1 story apartment, 1 story commercial.
But I think, Brian, you mentioned earlier, like, does it potentially disincentivize builders to not do it if they can't
Bringing a project.
bring in the commercial, right? I think you had mentioned that, or maybe I misheard you, but I think maybe that's part of the intelligent development we're
That's right.
striving for,
That's
right?
right.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, it does present as a challenge if they can't find commitment. And I mean, does it shoot us in the foot at all? Like, oh, well, we're not gonna have more, whatever, it's.
And I think,
Free commitments.
I think the nice thing about if we start here is that in 9 months, a year, 12 months, whatever the case may be, we can look at it and say, okay, we gotta adjust some stuff here. Versus like we said earlier, we can't bring it back.
Yeah, I
Versus
agree.
it's a lot easier opening it up versus bringing it back.
I think there's gonna be enough demand pressure with just the growth in the area, the corridor between here and Dyersville, that it's gonna develop.
Going to.
So, you know, we'll eventually get the projects we want.
Just not fast enough. It's never fast enough.
No. It takes time.
Too fast.
People are gonna,
Yes.
people are gonna want to be here. That's what we want, so.
This city runs before it learns how to crawl,
Yeah.
okay?
Other just, discussion, I know we came up with 100% brick or stone. Is everyone, I mean, that's pretty, I'm just gonna say that's pretty restrictive. I know it can be done because West did it. But I just wanna make sure that before we just leave it in there as that, is that what we wanna do? Is it?
I think that we have it in conditional use. I think that's gonna be enough, in my opinion. I like the looks, but I wish we could say all of it was like that. I just don't know. I think that would be restricted to a developer.
Yeah.
But in a development agreement, we can put what we want, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean.
Or do we wanna write it, whatever typical development agreement now is what?
They might not even ask for one.
We don't have anything set in stone right now as far as
Because if
what the
it's-
percentage
If
is.
someone buys a lot from whoever, it goes and builds it.
They might not need it.
The last time we did for county, we did 30%, but that was like, we could make that as we were going along.
Right.
But if someone buys a lot from the developers, it puts.
We talk about pulling that away.
Ordinance.
I get what
I
you're saying.
don't think I would be.
I think 100% seems like a lot. My house has like 10%.
Well, but this is written as 100% on the first floor and no vinyl anywhere, so it's.
I thought
probably
that
gonna
was
be
a
fine.
A question, oh, all first floor buildings.
For all first floor building, 100% brick stone, and then no vinyl anywhere, I think you're gonna end up with something that looks nice.
So just the first floor would be vinyl or brick.
Glass, brick or stone.
So the other 2 floors could be.
Anything but vinyl.
Anything but
Stucco, wood.
No bamboo, no tiki huts.
What about steel?
Who says?
siding?
What if that's the theme?
What if it's a tiki bar?
Yeah. that's a good
Tiki bar
question.
down below,
Good question.
There you go.
Hawaiian shirt shop.
Do you remember about the change?
Well, steel siding, yeah, you could allow steel.
For how it's.
For apartments?
Yes.
Well, if you're not allowing vinyl,
The way it's read just says no vinyl.
Yeah.
So,
I think 100 seems like a lot.
On the first floor?
but it's just the first floor.
But
It's the
ca-
first
what
one.
about if it's I don't know, I can't picture a building that, it just would look weird, wouldn't it? Like the rest of it could
Two-tone
be-
brick, I mean, and it just all depends on the
Yeah, you could
architectural
do stone.
style.
Yeah.
What's the concern about steel siding?
Well,
Got it.
it's equivalent to what vinyl would look like. I mean, it's not, you know, it's steel and vinyl, it's just they look the same.
So you're saying steel siding?
What siding are they using now?
Not like corrugated steel or.
But I mean, like,
Just
what's the
regular
apartment
steel
built
that-
now? What's our apartment, our house is built with?
Or,
For
yeah,
that smart siding, which is, I just figured out like fake,
Concrete, most of them. are
basically
like
plywood.
fake
most of them
wood,
probably
yeah.
use the smart.
I just don't know if you want to look up steel, like tin steel going up and down.
Right. Well, and keep in mind too, the commercial, it's gonna be your welcome mat to the city.
Yeah.
All that's out there. People are driving along Highway
That's right.
20. You wanna make a good impression. You don't want to have,
Now, professional mixed-use building could, I mean, there's board and batten type of vertical steel. You know, you use board and batten wood, and we did on our house, but there's professional, high-grade looking steel.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna,
You're gonna build the building. You're
you're gonna try to bring in that commercial, you're gonna want that.
It looks,
building.
they're gonna want the building to look sharp.
So are we talking about commercial or are we talking about R3?
Talking about.
The multi-use,
Commercial.
yeah.
Use.
The building permitted.
We're talking about, we're talking about a bulk requirement.
I thought we were talking, this is.
And R3 also.
This is apartment.
Yeah.
But it's the same, it's written the same.
So
And then-
when we spoke last time, we talked about having stone from top or equivalent of top to bottom to top.
That was our,
So are we, I think the concern is, is that gonna be too restrictive for a developer to build that?
If it's brick or stone, top to bottom, all three
Three
floors.
floors?
If you include drive it or like the stucco is what it's historically called, like, I don't think it's gonna restrict it that much.
And again, like I just said, this is what you see if it's our downtown. Do you want?
cause
So-
we've done that on Piasta Street and we've required them, everybody to put in brick and it's worked out wonderful.
So is this something that we put in, it's more restrictive if we have to? 12 months to a year later, we can
Lighten it
lighten it up a little bit?
I would agree.
Yeah. Is it 12 months to
No problem with that.
It sounded good though. Yeah.
I mean, it's more restrictive to start, but like, I think if we're looking at it like more, having more control over like how it unveils. You know, I think it makes more sense to have it carved out in here than to like wish that we had it in there and then later on decide like, oh, we should have did that that way.
After everything's halfway already.
Right.
You know, and this is a good thing to have in here because you can use it to negotiate. On anything else that you may want with that project that comes in. So that gives us a little bit of leverage in a positive way.
I like the stone from top to bottom.
Yeah, so the way it's written here, it's
We
the
need to
first
change
floor,
this.
so we'd wanna say all floors, and then they'd propose a project, and there'd be an opportunity to talk about what goes on and negotiate.
So you're saying top to bottom all around the house, 100%.
100%.
Or stone or stucco, just.
So all building.
And I thought that's the way we had walked out of here.
We talked about
The last-
it.
It
Yeah.
is, but it came back drafted first.
Yeah, I didn't know why it did. That was.
We changed it.
I think Doug said it was.
I did.
I think
It was.
Town council thought it was
Got no power.
Doug said it was.
Yeah,
He's never seen it before. is what he
we're
said.
also after a really nice look, right? What we want Piasta to look like, so.
That's for R3 and for C1, C2.
Correct.
Yeah, it goes back to the investment in the community, and I think that's part of the issue that some of the residents have with
Yeah.
some of the apartments, is just
Right.
the aesthetic. and
Exactly.
They've had an investment, they maybe customized a home, and then somebody comes in and builds something cheap, you know, it's like.
I don't think anybody has ever said that Wes is building. a
Looks
home.
nice. Not all of them do, you know?
We had more West developers around.
We have talked to Wes till we're blue in the face.
Is he done at Piasta or?
He doesn't have any property.
Well, I think we're lucky to have all the developers.
We are very lucky.
Yes,
We-
yes.
One and two, yeah.
Because they are making the city grow.
Yes. 1,000,000%.
Are we gonna say in there the use of vinyl and steel siding, or how's that? One might interpret that as steel is fine. Are we gonna change that?
I think the wording is gonna be
It'd have to go away.
Is it just gonna be top to bottom? It has to be
stone or
stone,
equivalent?
brick,
Stone,
or?
just be the second sentence, shall
Do
be
you wanna-
constructed 100% Brookstone or
I think we just
equivalent.
keep it there.
I like
Don't
equivalent.
be-
It kind of covers everything.
All floors.
What do you guys think?
Yep.
Equivalent kind of covers everything?
Yeah, just take off.
But it's, yeah, your point is if you say it's a negotiating tool, I think you need to have some note in there that says, or per so-and-so discretion.
Because it's gonna be an ordinance, right?
Yeah, this is.
So then we can't negotiate with an ordinance.
No, I would say that it would be, if they came in and they said 100% brick on the first floor, depending on what, what materials are using on the second and third floor, but we have to be consistent in our message. Because I don't want to have one that is completely brick and then the next two are
Right,
lower
right.
brick.
But we can't go away from the ordinance.
We can change we'd have to change the
So we'd
ordinance.
have to change it every time we negotiate it with someone.
Do that.
What
I don't think we should even use it
But
as
if-
negotiation.
But I think like what building material is jumble? Jumble's a beautiful building. I think.
Well,
it's
a lot of
looking
these-
Building.
A lot of these buildings came in before we had these zoning ordinances in place.
Yeah,
That's the
but I'm
problem.
just saying, if
But
someone
size-
came in and they
but
wanted
size-
to, if they
Good
wanted to build a building with material like that, why would we say no? That they take good care of it, it's a nice looking building.
We would say that's an equivalent material.
This is just for apartments and mixed use buildings, right?
No, we just said
No,
commercial.
this is-
too.
It's for C1 and C2. It's.
I think that's
written
too
out
much.
too.
I think that's too much. I think there's that's such a thing as too much control, and I think that's too
Even
much.
Dartford, look at Dartford, on like Starbucks.
Yes.
It was just supposed to buildings. Like a med siding.
But wouldn't that be considered?
Cement board.
I think it's that's something.
You can make an argument that that would be an equivalent, as long as, I would guess that cost of materials.
But we do that. We've done concrete or brick up here. Everything is brick or equivalent to.
You mean
For-
like Fairway,
Fairway.
Dollar General, yeah,
Bank,
yeah.
Ace.
Farm
Yeah.
Bureau.
So
But those are all, a
Doing
lot
it
of
here,
those are
we could be
one-story
consistent.
buildings versus, we really need to think about the Piazza Square one or the College Suites, what those look like, what were the requirements that they were.
Well, they didn't have any.
they did that on their.
They did it on their own,
Mhm.
but that's what we're trying to replicate,
Yeah.
right? If we see something 3 stories high, isn't that kind of what we're saying?
That's what we'd like, but you're saying like if. A restaurant,
Yeah,
we're gonna say that it has to be stone or brick.
I think that's a deterrence from building.
Hmm.
I think that's an expensive
What does or
investment
equivalent
to
mean?
make. In a commercial
What does
business
that
is
mean?
high risk.
Typically,
Restaurants are high risk.
It's a complementing type of a siding, so like a stucco could coordinate with a brick.
But
Can't,
it's in the ordinance, they're not having a discussion with zoning or anything about it, right? They're just,
It is what it is.
so they'd be arguing this is equivalent.
so couldn't our ordinance be design standards? I don't know, for like not conversation, but you know what I mean, like that can be a discussion and that it can be maybe certain requirements, but
Like
then who's-
complementary design standards, something like that. Is that
But then
what
you
you're
would have to come up with design standards.
They have to be.
So then you would have to
well,
go
maybe
from.
maybe like
ordinance to design
a minimum requirement of something, but
I think,
It says equivalent, isn't that your interpretation
That's what I
for planning and zoning
It
or
gives us
city council or
flexibility.
whoever's going to
Take a
approve
look at
their
the renderings
plans?
of what they.
what would you consider steel siding equivalent to brick or stone?
Generally not.
But is Dartford steel siding? I mean, not Dartford, Jumble?
No.
But they're-
Cement board.
Is it cement
On
board?
that.
Cement board could be construed as equivalent, cause it's.
Cement.
Cause it looks like.
Yeah.
Stuff over there, really would look.
I know what you're saying, but I think it just more eliminates people from trying to throw up something
Yeah.
cheap more than anything. It gives you flexibility to interpret it as an equivalent material if the design is up to standard.
and again, if 12 months to a year, we are having
We'd end up with a patch.
we're struggling or whatever the time frame is, we can make the adjustment. You know, we hear that time in, and time out that, oh my God, this is just so restrictive. Okay, then we have
Don't
to
you
make,
think we are? We know we are.
but I don't think we are because we're successful out here.
Yes.
It's been successful out here in this area. And I think it can be successful there.
And like one of you said, nobody complains about the look of that.
Everyone loves it.
Yes.
It's modern.
And it's well done.
Yeah, that whole area looks.
I think that's the goal of why people want to live here and why, I mean, I want.
But if a 10 is a permitted use, so like you got condos, townhouses, it's in as a permitted use. As a stone brick or equivalent, they can build something with their own argument that says it's equivalent. If it's in as a conditional use, it goes
To be a,
Board of Adjustment or Board of Adjustments for a project review. Just trying to clarify like that, but these design standards would apply to both categories, permitted or
Correct.
conditional.
Mhm.
I think we start with more restrictive and see what happens.
So we've been successful
I mean, there's gonna be a lot of,
downtown.
this is gonna develop. It's gonna-
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a lull or not. I mean, I still believe there's businesses wanting to
They
come.
wanna come.
They want to be here. I know, lumber costs went up, not just today. But, financing went up, that will come back down. I mean, there were factors that
Slow things down.
I believe kept people from being able to fulfill their dream to have a business in Piasta.
So I think you just need to look at what happened from COVID till now, and Piasta is one of the only few
Yeah.
communities in this area that
Still
is
growing.
still growing. And that's,
So let's go with restricted and elegant and see what happens. You know what you're saying?
I'm thinking that, and then again, let's reevaluate.
If we need to.
So right now, 100%.
Is that the consensus, 100% right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Start there and then this week. Not want that, you can always change it.
what is Shopko thinking of doing?
It'll be stone from top to bottom, cobblestone. Have you seen their buildings? They are nice, 2 stories high.
Has everyone had a chance to go through the replacement language to be added? The living facility, condominium, dwelling, multifamily, townhouse, mixed use. We talked about, I think, quite a bit about mixed use.
Problems with that, most guys.
We can't stop that.
Is everybody on that side of the room happy with where things are at?
It is, but it's an equivalent.
Right, it's equivalent.
It's an equivalent, right? They've got, that looks. Brick or first floor, yeah, brick, you know, it's kind of. That one's more of the vinyl, see, we would.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for, I mean, I'm really impressed with the turnout tonight, and this is really helpful. Because it's either gonna get busy or it's gonna get super busy. There are no other choices.
You would not be right over there.
Anybody, I guess, any final thoughts, anyone?
At some point, would it be nice for everyone to sit down for like a future zoning of Piasta and vision for it?
It's a plan.
I think we all have an understanding where those empty voids are and what we wanna incentivize to fill those voids.
I agree. Can't we just do a land use?
We could
And
do only,
advise
we were talking about doing the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And we talked about doing that too,
Yep.
and we really need to engage ECIA.
Yep.
And it's a very expensive process to do. We can try to find some grant money to subsidize that, but we're looking at anywhere from 12,500 up to about 35,000 to do that. And things are pretty tight for us right now, just given the legislative atmosphere, I'll use that word. So I can talk to ECI and see if we can just do an
Revise.
amendment
land
to
use.
that, sure.
I think there's more, I think you're looking at land use map more than. Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Full,
Like-
full.
Comprehensive. Yeah, we revise that, we're supposed to revise that every time it changes. I don't know when the last.
Well, we got it pretty much updated now.
Was it?
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Super good meeting, so
Conversation.
we will be.